Happy sports fans, I'm Glenn Paulk. Team Guam has just recently returned from its most successful South Pacific Games ever, and the island sports team was there. In fact, we were everywhere, from the departure lounge at the Guam International Airport to the 4-hour fiasco in Fiji, from village to venue, from the cafeteria to the competitions. The first thing that I would like to say right off the bat is that Guam, you should be proud. Over the 18 days in Tahiti, I got a chance to meet almost every single athlete, and this was a great group of people that called themselves Team Guam. You should be proud of the way that they conducted themselves in every aspect, whether during the heat of competition or in the heat of the nightclubs. You should be proud that they came back from this trip with more medals than ever before in the history of Guam's participation in these games. And finally, you should be proud that it was you, the people of Guam, that pulled together and helped support the massive financial undertaking necessary to send Team Guam to Tahiti, the land of yellow headlights and chocolate croissants, to be a part of the whole experience that was the 10th South Pacific Games.
We start out our look back the same way Team Guam did, at the departure area of the Guam International Airport, where spirits were high as Guam joined up with delegations from the CNMI and the Federated States of Micronesia. A total of nearly 300 athletes, coaches, and officials prepared for what should have been a 9-hour flight to Papeete, Tahiti. Once everyone was on board, we settled in for the long flight, with many of the people taking advantage of the downtime after the hectic schedule of the final week and getting some needed sleep.
Seguenza, come on, we got to go to Tahiti. Wake up.
Of course, you had to be careful not to sleep too heavily, as more than one person found out. Actually, this guy was the one who instigated all of the pranks on the first leg of the trip, leaving ice in sleeping passengers' laps and assaulting others with shaving cream, including GNOC President Rick Floss. So the island sports team took it into its own hands to exact revenge. And we told you, revenge would be sweet, Eddie. After a 4-hour stop in Fiji, yes, 4 hours for refueling, it was finally on to the final destination, and Team Guam was met by the awesome sight of Moorea on the descent into Tahiti. And then it was island bands playing some unique instruments that greeted the athletes once on the ground. The next day, we got our first look at the athletes' village as the Guam flag was raised in a special ceremony. We also started learning a little about the personalities of some of the athletes. Some, like the women's basketball team, proved very intelligent and eloquent in their views. While others, like board sailor John Iriarty, seemed a little confused.
Cable news! First in Tahiti!
Maybe it could be attributed to the jet lag. But without a doubt, there was a sense of anticipation in the air, and as we looked at the faces of Team Guam, all had hopes and dreams. For some, it was good enough to be there, competing with the very best from our region, while others just thought of being the best and bringing home one of those coveted South Pacific Games medals. As Team Guam was in Tahiti, safe and sound after a long trip, in the land of cold showers and warm smiles, and the opening ceremonies were less than 24 hours away. Day 3 was the one everyone had been waiting for. All the months, in some cases years of preparation, the time spent involved with fundraising, and all the other hardships were about to be paid off at the Stade Pater, Papeete's Olympic Stadium, which has a seating capacity of 15,000 people, and what a show it was. This was a stage set for the athletes, and around 5:30 in the afternoon, it got underway in earnest as each of the teams marched into the beautiful setting, greeted by drum beats and rhythmic clapping of the capacity crowd on hand. The Guam delegation was led by swimmer Patrick Sagisi, participating in his 3rd South Pacific Games. Having won 11 medals in his previous games, making him the most prolific medal winner in the Guam history of the games, did nothing to keep the young man from still feeling the same exhilaration that we all felt. And over the next few weeks, as I asked around, many athletes felt that this was the moment that they would always remember above all others. Of course, once the athletes were all arranged in the infield, it was the politicians' turn, and as is almost always the case, their speeches seemed to go on forever. And the fact that 90% of them were in French made it very hard to keep your attention on the politicians, a fact that the Guam athletes had the perfect solution for, as they used the time to spread, shall we say, some international diplomacy to our host. Once the speeches were complete and the SPG flag was raised amongst much pomp and ceremony, it was time for the other highlight of the evening, as everyone was treated to an island dancing extravaganza, lasting over 2 hours and featuring more than 1,000 performers. Fireworks culminated the evening as the 10th South Pacific Games were declared officially underway. But the following day was a Sunday, a rest day in Tahiti, so it would be just a bit longer before we could finally say, let the games begin. And Sunday in Tahiti was most definitely a rest day, as all the shops and just about everything else was closed. Our first stop, as it was almost every morning, was the Athletes' Village, where we found members of the soccer team. Soccer is a young and growing sport on Guam, and these guys knew that they would be heavy underdogs every time they stepped on the field. Nevertheless, their minds were still on the previous night's ceremonies.
Favorite moment? Favorite moment? Oh, favorite moment. Oh, everybody knows what the favorite moment was. You know, the dancing part of it, the hula, right? The left side. Yeah, she was great, and everyone. Well, actually, the whole experience was great. Especially, you know, they put on a show for us. But that one particular dancer really caught the eye of the audience, as you noticed also.
We also asked the soccer guys about their first few days in the village.
It's my first experience like this. It's great. You get to know people from all over, places I've never seen in my life, different cultures. It's great.
Yeah, the food is totally different than we're used to eat. French cuisine, and this is different, some local, some French, but good.
The island sports team used the day off to go around and tour some of the different venues that would be used in the athletic competitions. And the venues were in great condition. Some of the names that we would be hearing in the coming days, including Dragon, site of a thrilling win for Guam in men's basketball, Excelsior, where all of the martial arts would be held, and Fautua, where Guam would go winless in 5 tries in 3 different sports in front of packed houses. And then there was the Olympic pool in the heart of Papeete, site of Guam's first medal ceremony, and we'll show you that and other highlights of the first day of competition when we return. The first day of competition saw Guam's women's basketball team take the floor, and early on, nerves were definitely a factor as a bigger Fiji squad jumped out to a huge 41-14 halftime lead. After the break, Therese Sison, who had set out nearly the entire first half in foul trouble, came out on fire, and Guam played Fiji even the rest of the way, eventually falling 68-41. Sison led the way for Guam, scoring all 12 of her points in the second half.
Together. We just didn't gather ourselves in the beginning, and I guess it's always been Guam's way to always gather himself late in the games, but we're hopefully going to come out the next time around and do that straight from the beginning instead of having to wait through the halfway through the game. And I'm pretty sure that we could play with the rest of the girls. It may be a bad score, but it was positive because it just proves that we can play and stay with them. Score doesn't mean nothing. It's just showing what we can do out there and execute. And if people were watching, they know what we mean when we come out here and play and by our execution and everything.
Up next, it was team tennis from Fautua, and after Linda Johnson jumped out to a 4-love lead in the first set, Guam was feeling good, but her opponent stormed back and took the win 7-5 and 6-2. That left it up to 18-year-old Ana Marie Ramos to pull Guam even, and she did just that, defeating the #1 Fijian Andriana Taggart 6-2 and 6-2. We spoke to Ramos after the match.
Well, it was a very good match. I anticipated a tough match, and I felt a little more pressure because since Linda lost her match, it made it doubly crucial for me to win this one, and I really wanted it. I came here to win. I wanted to do Guam good.
Unfortunately, Fiji took the match when the doubles team of Johnson and Anita Faria fell in doubles 6-3, 6-2. Table tennis was going on at the same time a few miles away at the Stade Patera Annex. Guam drawing the #1 seeds and defending gold medalists from New Caledonia. It was a tough way to start out as Guam was swept 9-0 in both the men's and women's side, but they would be back. Also getting underway in the morning and continuing all day was the board sailing competition from Hitimahana Beach. Heavy winds wreaked havoc on all of the competitors, and with some large sails being the mandatory equipment, the women especially struggled. But we'll get back to windsurfing as they too would bounce back into medal contention. The sport of the day was swimming, and this was the site of Guam's very first medal victory. The first medal of the games for Guam went to Ocean View High School senior Claudia Clements as she came from behind to take the bronze in the 400-meter individual medley. That would be the first of 7 medals in the pool for Guam, and the second one came quickly as Derek Bollinger came from way behind with 2 laps to go and then passed 3 more swimmers in the final 50 meters, roaring through the water on his way to Guam gold in the 200-meter freestyle. Let's take a minute and share the sights and sounds of Derek's gold.
Guam, 1 minute 58 72.
Day 6 of the 19-day trip to the land of black sand beaches was a busy one. The game of the day was at Dragon, up in the valley outside of Papaete, where Guam's men's basketball team was engaged in a thriller. Guam came out hot, playing stingy defense and forcing a much bigger Fiji squad into turnovers. The smallest Fiji player was 6'2", but behind 21 points from Joey Almaguera and 18 from Joey Gogui, Guam hung tough. With 15 seconds left, Gogui hit a free throw to tie the game at 87, and then, in overtime, it was a wide-open Clarence Lagutang hitting the game winner from downtown. Guam wins in OT 101-99.
The first step is usually the hardest, but the team didn't give up. Everybody pulled through, put up a good defense in the end, and we just pulled through. Defensively, I think we're doing great, but these guys are really huge, so we're already, on the disadvantage, but our aggressiveness and our defense really came out with us tonight, and, no one gave up. That's the point. Nobody gave up.
One other note from this game, as Guam's young Jesse Panala was injured on this play in the second half, he would see no further action in these South Pacific games. The women were also back in action. They played better, but still were unable to overcome the height advantage of New Caledonia, falling 65-49. Therese Sisson again led the way with 14 points, while Rose Castro added 11. Surfing heats were underway at Papara, and Guam did quite well with everyone advancing in the men's open division, including Ray Flores and Joyce Santiago. Although Santiago was not on his favorite board, he had broken that one the very first day in Tahiti.
I don't know, man. The first day in the water, and guess this thing just completely broken up. Guess they don't make these boards as strong as they used to, you know what I mean? I don't know if my boards keep breaking like this. I can forget about it. Just pack it up and go home.
Table tennis and tennis both saw more action, with both going down to tough opponents. In tennis versus Tonga, Bernard Pang lost in straight sets, and then young Lin Nguyen, after being up 1 set, fell to Masaki Latu 4-6, 6-2, and 6-2. Table tennis was blanked again as Tammy Lin got the lone victory, Guam going down 9-0 on the men's side and 8-1 for the women, both versus Tahiti. But we told you, table tennis would be back after losing to the top 2 seeds. More on them later. Men's volleyball got off to a nice start. They rocked Wallace and Fortuna in straight sets, 15-10, 15-2, and 15-10 behind a strong blocking game from Ken Borja and the rocket straight down on offensive captain Art Mariano, who had his parents cheering for him in the stands. The women, who had not won a game in the 91 games in Papua New Guinea, showed that they were definitely a force to be reckoned with as they took on a huge New Caledonia team. Guam's women were the darlings of these games as they were well covered by all of the media in Tahiti, most especially the Tahitian newspapers. And why not? With the underdog Guam team taking New Caledonia to a 5th set, just 2 points from a huge win before New Caledonia roars back to score the game's final 7 points and break our hearts as Guam goes down 15-13 in the 5th and deciding game. Next up, our scrappy underdog soccer team facing Vanuatu, and Guam looked very good in the first half as Coach Tom Renfro's guys trailed just 1 zip late in the half. but a goal right before the halftime seemed to get the Guam team down a little, and 2 goals right at the end made the score sound worse than it actually was as Vanuatu wins 6-0. Nighttime in the land of moons as bright as the sun means boxing on this night, and Guam's Kano Colazo Cruz had the local Tahitian fighting his fight for much of the 3 rounds, but he went down on the judge's decision, losing 3-2. After the fight, we spoke to a disheartened Cruz who had worked so hard to get to this point. He says it was his last shot and that he will not fight again.
You know, this was my last fight, and I wanted to come out with a big bang. I wanted to show the people on Guam, especially the people who supported me, you know, all the stress that boxing has caused me in the last 2 years.
But there was one more bit of good news on this night, and again it came from the swimming pool, as Guam's Patrick Sigisi grabbed his first medal of these games and his 12th over the last 3, taking a silver in the 100-meter butterfly. The time was well off Patrick's best, and he felt he should have easily grabbed the gold, but it did end the evening on a high, and tomorrow's forecast called for more gold. We're at day 7 from the land of black pearls and just spectacular weather. Our sport of the day, surfing from Papara Beach. Young Mark Duenas was the man as he moved on into the quarterfinals in both the Open and Juniors division. Guam's other surfers, Ken Concepcion, Ed Laquata, and Joito Santiago, all advanced in their repechage heats.
Well, everybody's advancing in their heats. As far as Raymond Flores and Mark Duenas and Joito Santiago is concerned, we all advanced. We're all doing pretty good. We're a definite threat to the Tahitians, which are ranked #1 here. Of course, they're being their local spot.
So, so you mentioned the Tahitians as being some of the hot surfers out here. Anybody else that's kind of stood out there?
Besides Guam? No, not really. Just Guam and Tahiti.
The waves, while big on some parts of Tahiti, were small and sloppy on the beach break of Papara, but Ray Flores didn't seem to mind.
Okay, we're here at Papara, the surfing venue, about 45 minutes outside of Papaete with Ray Flores, and talk about your heat today and tell us how it went.
The heat was pretty good. I caught a lot of good waves. The wind kind of came onshore, but it gave us a lot of sections to work with, so I had a good time out there. That was probably one of my better heats. I surfed 2 heats yesterday, and today I felt a lot looser than the past couple days. So.
Talk about the surf conditions today versus yesterday and what they're expecting in the next couple of days.
Yesterday the surf was about the same size, but clean and peeling left and right. Today the wind came onshore, and it's getting a lot junkier, but it's still really rideable. So all the guys from Guam are going to do really good today.
Golf also got underway right down the road from Papara at Atimaono, and men's captain Lon Lindsay led by example, missing this eagle putt on number 9, settling for birdie on his way to a 2 over par 74, putting him in 4th place and leading the team into 3rd, 6 behind leading Fiji. The CNMI also did very well with Jeff Taylor's 1 under 71 leading the CNMI into 2nd place ahead of Guam. For the women, it was a bit of a rough start, Tessie Blair's 80 being the best, putting the women's team in 5th. Table tennis on the women's side started its turnaround, getting themselves into medal contention with a close win over Fiji. The team of Vivian Lin, Debbie Felipe, and Donna Santos trailed 4-3 before Felipe's 21-16, 21-18 win over Irene Chief of Fiji set up the winner-take-all match, and it was Tammy Lin winning it for Guam 21-14 and 21-12 over an opponent that I'm not even going to try and pronounce. Next up, men's basketball from Dragon. And Guam led 51-43 at the half, then fell behind late before having a chance to pull within 2 late, but a Joey Gogui layup would not go down, and Guam would fall to the eventual silver medal winners by a score of 100-94. New Caledonia's 6'5" Angelo Francois Eloise led all scores with 32 points. Gogui led Guam with 25, including 5 3-pointers. Also coming up big for Guam were Joey Almaguera, his 2nd straight game with 21, and Ray Serafico adding 17 off the bench. The media darlings, the volleyballers, bounced back from the heartbreaker of the day before. They downed Wallis and Fortuna in 4 sets. The men followed suit, trouncing the Solomon Islands at Aurora Gymnasium, led by the awesome jump shirting of Rich Aviador and great frontline play of Steve Pangolinan and once again Ken Borhoff, who had an outstanding tournament. That moved Guam's record to 2-0, but they still had the tall and talented teams from Fiji, New Caledonia, and Tahiti on their remaining schedule. The night ended as it did each night of the first week at the Olympic pool. And the story of the pool, and in fact of the games, was the innocent-looking youngster from New Caledonia, the charming flag bearer Diane Bouidouye, who to this point was 7 for 7 in the races she had entered, gathering 7 first-place finishes, that's 7 gold medals, and she still had more races to go. But the story for Guam was Derek Bollinger, twice as golden after following up his 200-meter freestyle with another win in the 100, establishing himself as the fastest man in the pool in Tahiti. Patrick Sigisi followed Bollinger into the pool, and he continued to add to his Guam record, getting his 13th SPG medal, this one his second silver of these games in the 200-meter backstroke. So, with 3 days of competition complete, Guam currently stands in 3rd place in the medal count with 5, all from the pool. But the next day would see that medal count more than double. Day 8 from the land of diesel fumes and just wonderful French accents started out impressively for Guam as Ordot's 17-year-old Sonny Chargaloff thoroughly outclassed his first 2 opponents at Excelsior Gymnasium, site of the Taekwondo competition. Sonny's opponents may have been older and even wiser, but they were no match for the long legs and fluid style of the young Chargaloff. His 2 wins in the morning and afternoon sessions sent him to the evening's gold medal match against New Caledonia's Patrick Cheval. Also advancing in their first round through byes were Lloyd Esteban and Joe Cruz, guaranteeing themselves at least a bronze medal. One additional fighter didn't get the luck of the draw. John Atoigwe would have to earn his the hard way, and it just wasn't meant to be this time, as Atoigwe was forced to retire from his fight after taking a heel to the eye. At the halfway point from the Atimaono golf course, the men's team continued to play well, but not quite well enough. They stood 5 strokes out of 3rd, tied with the CNMI with 2 days to go. Individually, Mike Castro, Lon Lindsay, and Teddy Gogui stood 9th, 10th, and 11th, respectively. May Kittigwa had a 79 and Tessie Blair an 80 for the women, keeping them in the top 10 individually, and in 3rd place, bronze position as a team. Team tennis notched the win as Bernard Pang and Lin Nguyen won their matches, and the team of Ken Cruz and Mark Arakawa won the doubles, making it a clean sweep and sending them to the consolation finals against Vanuatu. Also getting a win, their first, was the women's basketball team as they defeat the Solomon Islands 75-71. Rhoda Santos, the floor general point guard, led the way for Guam with 16 points, while Susie Retubong chipped in with 13. The game of the day once again came from volleyball. Unfortunately, it was deja vu all over again for the men, as they played well enough to win against New Caledonia, but just as the women had done earlier, they failed to put the game away when they were up, and New Caledonia came back and won the 5th and deciding set 15-12. The key was the 4th set, where a Guam win would have finished it, and they were up late before dropping the last 5 points. Then, in the 5th, Guam let the tall New Caledonians get out to a commanding 6-1 lead. They fought all the way back, tying it at 9-all before going down 15-12. That meant they would have to beat Tahiti the following night to stay in contention for the gold.
And in the 5th deciding set, we gave them a 4-0 lead, and I think that was what hurt us right there. But our guys came back. We were down by 1. We tied it up, and just couldn't put it through at the end. New Caledonia played a good game, but this team right here, Guam, I think is much better than these guys. I think what hurt us definitely was the officiating that took our 4th game away from us, and that was our set. And that took a whole lot mentally, our game away. And other than that, I think our team, Guam, they're beatable. This was our match, and we just let it slip away.
For the first night since the games began, Guam missed out on any medals at the pool, as the men's 4x100 freestyle relay team of Mike McCauley, Sean McElligott, Frank Flores, and Derek Bollinger could only manage a 4th place finish, although Bollinger nearly pulled them up to the bronze on the final leg. Not to worry, though, Taekwondo picked up the slack as both Lloyd Esteban and Joe Cruz spent time on the medal stand collecting bronze medals, and then it was Sonny Chargaloff fighting for the gold. The young fighter was not at his best in the final, showing fatigue and being bothered by a sore foot from his earlier wins. Nevertheless, he takes home the silver medal presented to him by GNOC President Rick Blas, and he should be one of the ones to watch 4 years from now when the games come to Guam.
Unfortunately, he ran out of gas. I don't know, perhaps it might have been the pressure, the excitement, or I don't know. But normally he can last 3 rounds for 3 minutes. So I guess other factors had to deal with it. But he's nothing to be ashamed of. He did really good. He performed very well. And I'm sure that he could have taken the gold. I know he could have.
Track and field got underway at the Stade Pater with David Wilson's personal best in the 400 meters, placing him 7th in his race, and Flo Quitlong, competing in the long jump, used this jump of 6.64 meters to also take 7th place, a result that Guam Track and Field's Karina Castro called very acceptable as Guam struggles to build its track and field program. Finally, the night came to an end at the Outrigger Tinihau, the venue right on the beach that was also the site for boxing and outrigger canoe races. And as expected, it was the mighty mini Manny Molinos gathering 2 medals on the night. The 119-pounder had a clean and jerk nearly twice his weight, 210 pounds, good enough for the silver medal. He also took the silver in the total weight category, which combined the weights lifted in the snatch and the clean and jerk. So that would make Guam's medal count rise to 11. And believe it or not, in the busiest day of all in the games, tomorrow would see that number more than double once again. Stay with us. Day 9 from the land of Marlon Brando and James Michener was the day. 13 medals collected. Let's show you how they happened. Surfing started the medals parade at Papara Beach with 5 Tahitian judges making it difficult to defeat the hometown boys. But Guam pulled in the medals anyway. First it was longboarder Joe Villatori in the white, using rides like this to take 3rd place and the bronze in the longboard finals. The longboard competition was won by a world-class Tahitian who in fact was a former world champion. Rebecca Irwin was next in the women's bodyboard, and Rebecca did one better with rides like this garnering her the runner-up spot to, you guessed it, a Tahitian. We got our ace reporter, Joito Santiago from the men's surf team, to once again help us out with an on-the-spot interview before Rebecca even learned of her results.
So Rebecca, how do you feel that you're the first ever Guam girl bodyboarder to ever go in the South Pacific Games for their surf? First time ever for the surfers to go in the South Pacific Games.
Yeah, I guess we're all the first, so I'm with you guys, and it's sort of a team ecstasy, so it's been a great experience. Getting to go and surf in different waves and with different people, see different levels of riding and surf different waves. Just great. It's a really tight community, so the whole world just seems a lot smaller.
Okay, that's Rebecca Irwin, brought to you by KOM TV8, first on Guam, first on Tahiti, and Papara Beach.
Guam had 2 competitors in the men's bodyboard finals, Ken Concepcion and Richard Napoleon. Napoleon takes another bronze for Guam, its 3rd medal in as many finals on the day, and they still had junior division surfer Mark Duenas waiting in the wings. Duenas surfed well, but the judges didn't seem to think so. We'll let surf team captain Steve Roberto describe the problem.
The judging's pretty questionable. Right now, the results that we had in the contest, you can't blame it on the surfing, but you could definitely blame it on the judging, simply because of the fact that we don't have equal representation by Guam. Out of a panel of 5 judges that are judging this contest, all 5 of them are Tahitian.
So Duenas gets the bronze. I definitely thought he had the silver, but we'll have to wait 4 years to get our revenge. Men's golf moved into a medal contending spot on the next to last day on the strength of the best round of any golfer over the 4 days, Teddy Gogui's 4 under par 68. That moved Teddy into 4th place individually, and the team stands 3rd.
I just got to do the same thing as I did today. Just go out and focus on what I want to do, par the holes, and if I can make birdie, I make birdie. And hopefully we come out the medal.
For the women, Tessie Blair and May Kittiga both within range individually. Team-wise, along with Josephine Calvo, they're also 3rd. Guam history was made at the Stade Pater track when Jay Antonio became the first runner from Guam to compete in the 3,000-meter steeplechase. Antonio set a personal best in the race and said afterwards that it was the toughest race he had ever run. The men's basketball team was in a race of their own, as in racing up and down the court, they ripped Vanuatu 139-76. Danny Cepeda led the way with 42 points and 18 rebounds. But getting back to the theme of the day, medals. It was Edgar Santos next, adding to little brother Manny's totals, getting 2 medals to call his own in the snatch and the total category. 4 from surfing, 2 from weightlifting, and the day was less than halfway complete because in table tennis, the women's team of Vivian Lin, Tammy Lin, Debbie Felipe, and Donna Santos won the team bronze after defeating Papua New Guinea 5-4. But once night began to fall, the medals really started coming. First in the pool, once again, Derek Bollinger made it a clean sweep of the freestyle sprint, winning the 50 meters. Derek was in a horse race with at least 4 other swimmers leading him at one point, but just as he's done in his other races, Derek turns it on right here in the final 10 to take gold, his and Guam's third of the games. But the swimmers weren't finished, and this time Patrick Sagisi would not be denied a gold of his own. After 2 silvers earlier in the week, this was his last individual shot at gold, and he made the very most of it, turning in a good time to win the 200-meter backstroke. The smile says it all, but let him say it, because he does it, appropriately enough, in French. Finement, finally indeed. That, by the way, if you're keeping count, was Mr. Sagisi's 14th SPG medal, twice as many as anyone else from Guam has won. Straight from swimming, we rushed to Arue, where Guam's men's volleyball team was playing in maybe the game of their lives, and the house was packed to the rafters because Guam was facing undefeated Tahiti. Tahiti was just too much in this one, although Guam played well and was in fact the first team to take a set from the eventual gold medal winners in the tournament, but they went down 3-1. Our last stop on this busy night would be in downtown Papeete, and what a night for Guam, as 4 of the 5 participants in bodybuilding won medals. Young Vince Gumatautau, moving up for the first time from the juniors division, was the only one not to medal, and he got one of the strongest crowd reactions of the night, especially from the women in attendance. I'm predicting gold for Vince 4 years from now. But winning medals was the theme of the day, and Guam's women's duo of Josephine Blas and Donabelle Duque, competing in the lightweight division, both grabbed one. Blas being tapped for the bronze, and Duque, clearly a crowd favorite, took the silver. That proved to be just a warm-up, though, because when the men stepped on stage, it was nothing but gold. First, in the easiest call of the night, Ken Rios outmuscled his competition, taking gold in the bantamweight division. That was followed immediately after by lightweight Royce Yonko, duplicating Rios in a closely contested division. 4 golds in one night, easily the most productive day of the games, leaving Guam with 24 total medals, and the halfway point of the games was still ahead. Day 10 from the land of Va'a, or Outrigger canoe racing, began just like every other during our stay in Tahiti, under beautiful, cloudless blue skies. And it started on the beach at Hotuparai, where the Outrigger 500-meter sprints took place. The sport has been growing rapidly on Guam, but it is still in its infant stage, while countries like Tahiti and Fiji have established leagues with thousands of participants like we do in basketball and baseball. So it was a learning experience for Guam in both the 6-person and singles races, as Guam failed to advance past the first heat. The one exception, former SPG basketball player turned paddler Jerry Cabrera, who finished 3rd in her heat and advanced to the finals. About an hour away in Atimaono, it all came down to the final day on the golf course, as golfers from the CNMI and Guam shot for the medals. Tessie Blair started the day in 3rd, but was unable to make the big putts when she needed them, but she and her team of May Kitagua and Josephine Calvo finished 3rd, succumbing to a charge by individual gold medalist Crystal Cruzon of Tahiti, who will be attending San Diego State on a full golf scholarship this fall.
I'm just happy. I'm happy they did well, and they did a real good job. Go Team Guam.
Oh, it went well. I shot a 79 today. I'm so happy about that. I was struggling in the front 9, but I managed to bring it back in the back. The course played long, but we hung in there and got the bronze.
For the men, Vic Borja was hot at just 2 over through 17 holes, but a rough finish on 17 and 18 cost him and the Guam team as they finished 5th, 2 strokes from the medal and 1 stroke behind the CNMI. Our neighbors to the north were led by Jeff Taylor, who sank putts like this on his way to an individual bronze. The story of the day, though, came from Excelsior, where Guam's 4-person karate team in its inaugural SPG did quite well, collecting 6 medals. Robert Duckanay led the way, winning a silver in the 75-kilo class and a bronze in the open division, while Eleanor Miner collected 2 bronzes, but the performance of the day went to Guam firefighter Dean Uggan, who fought 6 times on his way to earning 2 bronzes.
It was pretty brutal today, and, you know, we put up, they respect us. You know, when they come to Guam, it's going to be something different, and hopefully we get some fighters there to come out and try out for the SPG.
Another bright spot for Guam was at Hitimehana Beach, where John Iriarty placed 2nd and 8th in his 2 heats to remain a solid 3rd place at the halfway point in the windsurfing competition. The women's team of Jenny Prusky and Linda Yeomans, who had gotten off to a rough start early in the week, continued to battle the strong winds of the South Pacific, moving into the third-place position as well. More good stuff from Hotuporai as Guam's triathlon team went to work late in the afternoon. Jeff Miller, Jay Donovan, Will Yamamoto, and Tiffany Larscheid not having high expectations after leaving their top athlete, Greg Helm, home due to an illness. So Yamamoto was asked to fill in as a late replacement, and he came through big time, first out of the water and moving to the bike. In fact, Yamamoto might have been the first Guam finisher, but he was so quick on his transition from the swim to the bike that he forgot his shirt, and race officials forced him to go back and retrieve it, costing him 4 to 5 minutes. Jay Donovan and Jeff Miller both ran their usual races, with Miller eventually catching and passing Donovan on the run. Miller was the first Guam finisher, then Yamamoto and Donovan, but the spotlight has to fall on the lone female, Tiffany Larscheid, running in just her 4th triathlon, and the young lady did far better than expected against French-trained athletes from Tahiti and New Caledonia. Larscheid made it past the bike portion, where competitors passed her left and right, and where she actually considered quitting, to the strongest part of the race for her, the run, where she proceeded to pass all of the people who had passed her on the bike, moving into 3rd place and falling just short of the silver position. Larscheid gets the bronze, as does the 4-person team. You think Tiffany wasn't happy? I can confirm reports that she spent the entire evening after the race dancing the night away until 3 in the morning at the Galaxy Disco. Adrenaline is an amazing thing. So week 1 was in the books. Sunday was an off day, and many of the Guam contingent went looking for a taste of home. They got it at a barbecue hosted by Tereri Timituhatuan, who had ties to some Guam athletes from previous South Pacific Games.
I met Tina when she was here in 1989. She was here for the Oceanian game. And then she was asking me hot water. And I said, what hot water? So I keep her to my house with all the team of the basketball. That's why I met her. And then 1 month after, I went to Guam. She accepted me to her house. We stayed with her. Then we went back to Saipan. She's like my sister, and I say Happy Day to all the people in Guam. Come to Tahiti.
The day was highlighted by the Harley-Davidson Club of Tahiti, giving rides to many in the Guam contingent, especially the women's basketball players, although the favorite of the biker men was definitely Denise Wan, earning her the honorary title of Queen Harley. Of course, there was food, and Guam's boxers took over the grill, and there was even more competition as Tereri's brother, who is the reigning Mr. Tahiti, a title he earned in a kind of island decathlon similar to the Micronesian all-around competition held here in the Micro Games, he challenged some of Guam's muscle types to pick up a rock weighing over 250 pounds. Some struggled, a few had limited success, but none could duplicate this. Boxing coach Rufus White seemed to know when to give in and just relax and enjoy the sights of Tahiti. And they had better relax, because the next day would start another busy week, the final 5 days of competition when we come back. And they never looked back. The women had it tougher. They lost to Tahiti 76-36. Rachel Santos led the way for Guam with 8 points. The loss meant Guam would face New Caledonia in the bronze medal game, while Tahiti and Fiji would play for the gold. A great story once again from the karate team, or at least part of it, competing as a 3-man team in a 5-man event. Guam's Robert Dukanai, Joe Uggan, and Dean Uggan actually outpoint the eventual gold medal winners from New Caledonia, but they must forfeit the 2 matches where they had no competitors and lose on points. These guys were definitely my heroes of the day.
We came in as the underdogs. We beat Papua New Guinea by points. We racked up 17 points. They only racked up, I think 11 points. So we advanced. Then we fought New Caledonia, which is a top team. Individually, our 3 fighters did well. They didn't beat us by their 3 fighters and our 3 fighters. We beat them by points, but because we were handicapped, we lost again the last 2 spots, which was 12 points.
Also winners on this day, the women's doubles team of Ana Marie Ramos, a soon-to-be freshman at UCLA, and her partner Linda Johnson. They keep Guam's last medal hopes alive in tennis with a 6-2, 3-6, 6-1 win over Vanuatu. In track and field competition from the Stade Pater, Guam's lone participant in the field event, Rennie Delamar, had his day in the sun. His best effort was 12.96 meters. Men's volleyball played Fiji in a meaningless game for both teams, as they had locked up third and fourth place, so this was a preview of the bronze medal game. Unfortunately, Guam came out and played like it knew the game was meaningless. The result was an easy straight sets win for Fiji. But if the story of the day was karate, the night belonged to boxing. And the most exciting fight of the night was most definitely the one between Guam's Tana Meafo and his opponent from Fiji. Tana took some shots early in the fight, but in the second round he was giving more than he was taking, and he had the tall Fijian wobbly already when the Fijian lunged in. Meafo sidestepped the lunge and delivered the hook to the head that sent the Fijian flying out of the ring, and Island Sports was there. I mean, right there. But once Guam's team Dr. Davina Lujan made sure he could count her fingers, the bout was restarted, and the Fijian came out swinging as he rocked Meafo a couple of times before Tana could regain control of the fight. In the end, a close decision went to Meafo, which means new things in his native Samoa. Tana made new things happen on this night as he became the first boxer from Guam to win a bout in the South Pacific Games. It sent him to the gold medal bout later in the week, where another exciting fight would take place. Day 13 from the land of chocolate croissants and beautiful sports venues was a relatively slow day, but it started out with a nice story from archery. The Guam team of Luis Cabral, Mike Santiago, and Cesar Witt had already captured a team bronze, and Cabral had qualified 8th in the singles match play competition. Placing 8th meant that Cabral would take on the number 1 seed, Tahiti's Teva Winkelstroder. Cabral and Winkelstroder put on quite a show in the longest distance in competition, the outdoor 70 meters, with Cabral starting out the first of 10 rounds with a 10-point bullseye. A minor cold streak in the 4th and 5th rounds by Cabral proved the only difference, as Cabral goes down to defeat 96-92, but he was a happy man at the end of the competition, and rightly so, as Luis has single-handedly brought archery on Guam to a competitive level. Hero of the day on day 13, archery's Luis Cabral. The track team was back in action as both Albert Wan and Flo Quitlong failed to advance in their heats, and tennis came to an end for Guam as well, when the women's doubles team of Johnson and Ramos fell to Fiji. In the evening, men's basketball tried to avoid looking ahead to a big upcoming game with undefeated Tahiti, and they managed to concentrate on the Solomon Islands, ripping the Solomons 125-90, moving their record to 4-1. Danny Cepeda once again led the way for Guam with 25 points, and Gino Hahn deserves a big mention for his stellar defense in this game and every other during the 2 weeks. Finally, it was judo wrapping up the evening at Excelsior, and a large crowd saw 2 of Guam's 3 participants walk away with medals, as the Lion, Walter Gray, gets a bronze thanks to throws like this, while the most dominant performance of the night was the one turned in by Guam's Atef Hussein, the former Israeli national champ who now calls Guam home. While some, like triathlete Tiffany Larshide, could barely watch, Hussein had no problem overcoming a flu which had kept him in bed for the previous 2 days, as he finished his 4 matches in less than 3 minutes on his way to Guam gold. So, with 3 days of competition still to go, Guam's medal count stood at 34, tying the highest count ever by a Guam team. That record had been set in 1991 in Papua New Guinea, but we weren't stopping there.
Protocol medal ceremony.
The Tahiti rules.
Yes.
Tahiti rules.
Tahiti rules.
Protocol medal ceremony.
Day 14 in the land of carnivals and radical go-karts may have been Guam's toughest. It started out on a high note from Hitimahana Beach, where Guam virtually assured itself of more medals as both John Iriarte and the women's team of Yeomans and Prusky solidified their hold on third place, Iriarte still within range of the silver. The 500-meter outrigger finals were going on at the same time at Hotuparai Beach, with Jerry Cabrera the lone finalist for Guam. She raced a magnificent race and was in third place with about 100 meters to go when she lost consciousness and fell out of her canoe before being rescued by water safety personnel. She was taken to the Papaete General Hospital and recovered fine. Watch for Jerry in '99, as she has proven herself to be on a par with the rest of the Pacific paddlers. Two big games that night. First, Guam's women's volleyball team taking on the defending champs Tahiti, and they play well at times before Tahiti takes it in straight sets, sending Guam to the bronze medal game the next day against Fiji. And late in the night at a packed Balfour Gymnasium, Guam's men's basketball team also took on host Tahiti, and what a game it was. Guam came out smoking, hitting their first three shots, all three-pointers, to lead 9-zip. But Tahiti bounced back to lead by 16 at the half. In the third, Guam once again cut into the lead as Gino Han found Joey Go before the alley-oop, and then Joey Santos fakes two Tahitians in the air before splitting them for the bucket. A Han three-pointer pulled Guam closer yet, and as Coach Jimmy Taitano urged his team to relax, two more buckets, one by Gogui and this one by Joey Almaguera, cut the lead to 59-57 with about 5 minutes remaining, and swimmer Patrick Segisi and the rest of the Guam fans were thinking upset. But it just wasn't going to happen on this night, as Tahiti went back inside and pulled away late, winning by the final of 81-63, but the game was much closer than the final score indicated.
Well, we tried to pick up the intensity in the second half because we knew we were behind, and we tried to outrun them, we tried to take away their legs, but the inside men were just too much for us.
Yeah, they definitely went inside later, and I don't know, I mean, you guys played well, and you got still something to look forward to. You got another game coming up.
Well, we talked about the game Friday. We're just going to dwell on it tonight. Tomorrow's a new day, and then Friday we'll come out fighting again.
One side note, while Guam didn't win any medals in basketball, they definitely won the hearts of the most Tahitian female fans, like the Tahitian twins and others, who crowded around the players after the game, begging for pictures and autographs of the team. Day 15 from the land of Mo'orea and Bora Bora started bright and early, or maybe we should say dark and early, as Guam's marathon trio of Bernice Carbolito, Susan Say, and Marie Benito took off before sunrise on the grueling marathon course, 26.2 miles through the diesel fumes of downtown Papaete, west towards the surf and golf venues at Papara and Atimaono, and then back, coming right through downtown Papaete as the heat and fumes began to build. I was standing alongside the course at a couple of different points, and I honestly don't know how these women could handle the traffic and accompanying diesel fumes, but they handled it and handled it well. And the first Guam runner coming back into the stadium was Marie Benito, taking third place and a bronze medal. Shortly thereafter, it was Susan Say, finishing fourth, and then Bernice Carbolito in fifth, as all three runners remarkably set personal bests.
I think probably the toughest marathon I've done out of the six. Not too many hills, but the fumes and the heat and the dust and the potholes and what else? Traffic. There was no cones to keep the runners safe, except for a bicyclist who was there every now and then.
I've never experienced anything like it. It feels like I've smoked 2 packs of cigarettes right now. It was very difficult. They didn't block off the roads. It was by far the most difficult marathon I've ever run.
Outrigger canoe races went off again at Hotuparai, and Guam used the experience in both the 6-man and 6-woman event to learn from the very best in the Pacific, studying our video to watch the Tahitians.
Well, we got our butts kicked, but we feel pretty good because we did better times than we did on Guam. We're going to take this experience back to Guam and hopefully make the Va'a, or the Outrigger canoe races, better and more internationally recognized, I guess, on Guam.
Back inside, it was men's and women's volleyball going for the bronze. And unfortunately for the men, they picked the worst possible time to what would have to be called their weakest outing of the tournament, as Fiji rips Guam in straight sets 15-10, 15-8, and 15-5, so Guam finishes fourth. You know, ever since the 4-hour Fiji fiasco where we sat on their runway and sweated, Fiji seemed to be the one that time and again eliminated us from competition or from medal contention. The Fijians, to me, were the nicest of all the delegations, fun to talk with, and so it was impossible to hate them, but I sure was tired of losing to them. So when the women's volleyballers stepped on the court to play them for the bronze, we were due for a win. But it just wouldn't happen. Despite another standout performance by setter Jasmine James and good spark off the bench from Sharon Mendoza, Guam's women were just too small to answer all of Fiji's offense and struggled to establish their own offense. Tammy Taitano and Letitia Pangilinan did manage a few kills, but it wasn't enough as Fiji does it to us again, 15-11, 15-6, and 15-12. Judo had its final night with lightweight Kazu Sonoda seeing his first action and big Atif Hussein also looking for his second medal. But Sonoda was shocked, upset in his first two fights, leaving it up to Hussein in the open division. Hussein advanced to the gold medal match only to be beaten by an opponent he had recently defeated in the Oceania Championships, a fighter from, you guessed it, Fiji. Hussein settles for the silver. But the night was not quite over. Boxing finals were underway, being televised live on RFO Tahiti television. And once again, Tana Meafo, fighting a local Tahitian, this time for the gold medal, gave the crowd the most exciting fight of the night. Meafo connected with quite a few shots, but then he let his guard down, and the Tahitian scored big, knocking Tana to the mats and ending his gold medal hopes. He looked ready to go for more, but the referee stopped it, and Tana Meafo makes Guam boxing history with the highest finish ever by a Guam boxer. Day 16 from the land of Beep Beep Burgers was the last day of competition, the culmination of 11 days of intensive sports action, and what a day it was for Team Guam. After the previous day's tough losses to Fiji in basketball, they were the last team we wanted to see on this day, but there they were, and in our favorite gymnasium, Fautua, where Guam had yet to win a game in 4 tries in 3 different sports. It was the bronze medal game, and Fiji was looking to avenge an earlier loss to Guam, that 101-99 thriller at Dragon. A close first half had the game tied at 33, but a 10-3 run by Fiji right before the break gave them a 43-36 halftime lead. Guam came out strong to start the second, and this Gino Ohan to Joey Gogui play gave Guam a 4-point lead at 64-60. Fiji would come back to tie it on this shot right here, and this one stayed close the rest of the way. Guam was getting the opportunities they wanted against the taller Fijians, but they just would not drop as the Fautua jinx seemed to be on again. But Guam still hung tough, and on this play from Danny Cepeda to Joey Gogui, who was waiting outside the arc, the lead was cut to just 1 with 3 minutes to play. The big play with under 2 minutes to go came when Danny Cepeda was called for his 5th foul, but the fans from Guam were still not giving up, and they got one last chance when Joey Almaguera got the steal to Joey Gogui, who gives it back to Almaguera. The lay-in had Guam down by a point with 10 seconds to go. But that was as close as they would come, as Fiji does it to us yet again, this time by the final of 89-86, as for the first time since 1975, Guam fails to medal in men's basketball. But the sportsmanship was still there, and if you see a Fiji jersey walking around Guam, now you'll know where it came from. The village life had calmed down a lot, with most of the sports wrapping up, so we took time out to kind of kick back with some of the athletes. In this case, it's a version of Star Search in Tahiti.
Because we know the words to that one.
Star Search in Tahiti, take 1.
Mama. Oh my gosh, we practiced, but we...
Wait,
we're testing, you know, we're just preparing, seeing if you're ready. We're ready now. Okay, are you ready? Okay, are you ready? Okay, are you ready? Oh my God.
Let me see.
Pause.
Okay.
Time out. It would be to show me how you feel. More than words is all you have to do to me.
Not bad, but there was more than words still left. There was still more action from Fautua, where it was the women's turn to play for the bronze. The good news, I guess, is that it was not against Fiji, but New Caledonia proved just as tough. Guam hung in and trailed by just a bucket late in the contest, but the bottom line, just as it had been in volleyball, was the height factor, as the taller New Caledonians took advantage of a big rebounding edge to win it 63-55. So that left one last sport in action, windsurfing from Hitimahana Beach, where the women's team of Jenny Prusky and Linda Yeomans had been battling back from a slow start to climb into the medals. They finished with a team bronze, Guam's 41st medal of these games. The very last medal, that would go to our good buddy John Iriarte, who after near misses due to technicalities in the last 2 games, finally got what he deserved in both 1987 and 1991, a medal from the sport of board sailing. Iriarte started slowly like the women, but once he made some sail adjustments, he came on strong, nearly pulling up to silver but settling for the bronze. So it was coming to an end. Over 2 weeks in paradise, thrills and heartbreaks, new friends and lasting memories. When we come back, we'll show you highlights of the grand finale, which also marked a new start as Guam begins the awesome task of hosting these games in less than 4 years. The games ended the same way they began, with the spectacular setting of the Stade Pater as the venue. Once again, all of the teams congregated and then marched together for one last time as the crowd showed its appreciation to all of the athletes with singing and rhythmic clapping. Guam was the last team to enter the stadium this time since they will be hosting the 1999 games. The contingent was led by basketball standout Joey Gogui, who learned only moments before that he would have the honor of carrying the Guam flag. And the crowd saved the loudest ovation for Guam, especially when they saw the banner being carried by volleyballers Kelly Cruz and Tammy Taitano and basketball players Michelle Presnell and Therese Rassong. The big thing going on this night was, in addition to more awesome Tahitian dancing, trading, as athletes and everyone else took the time on the infield to mingle among the different nations, trading pins, as is the usual tradition. And when the pins weren't enough, they traded pretty much whatever they had. The culmination of the night, as the games were officially closed, came when South Pacific Games President Jean-Yves Bainbridge made the official presentation of the flag to Guam National Olympic Committee President Rick Blas. And that was it. The 10th South Pacific Games were in the books. So there you have it. Guam goes to Papaeti, Tahiti after much hardship financially, emotionally, and athletically. They send the largest contingent ever, and they return with the largest medal haul ever, a total of 42. They experience unexpected successes in the martial arts especially, and they suffer some heartbreaking losses as well. Tahiti is an awesome island paradise, but Team Guam was ready to come home, and after a smooth 9-hour direct flight, they were met by friends and family at the Guam International Airport. And it was all over, while a new challenge lays ahead.
In 3.5 years, Guam will try and duplicate the spectacle and ceremony that we have just witnessed. Can Guam do it? Of course we can, but it is an intimidating task, and 99 Games Committee members like Randy Cunliffe, Paul Shimizu, and Tina Barnes are already planning for a spectacular Games when the Pacific comes to Guam for the 11th South Pacific Games. We'll see you there.
SPG Reward. Now available on VHS videocassette for $50 at the KUAM studios in Harmon. For reservations, call 637-KUAM.